Hello, I'm Rashad Bayramov, communication trainer and coach, and welcome to my Effective Communication series where I share with you various tips and advice on how to influence people in various situations. Today I want to talk to you about the right choice of a communication channel. Have you ever wondered why your communication breaks down? Have you ever wondered why people do not reply to your email, or don't pick up a phone when you call them, or do not participate in your meetings? Does that sound familiar? Well, don't worry. Almost everyone can say that such events or such communication breakdowns has happened in their life, once or twice. So what to do about them? In fact, why do they even appear? Well, if you actually take a look at the very simple diagram of effective communication, you will see on the one side a source of communication and on the other side the receiver of communication. The source of communication, say a person, sends certain information, encodes certain information and sends it to the receiver. The receiver decodes the information to understand it, right? So what is in between the coder and decoder is the channel of communication. So basically, what channel you pick to pass the information makes a huge difference in terms of whether this information reaches the recipient and whether this information is understood by the recipient. Now, of course, I could be opening a whole Pandora's box, because a lot of you now can say, well, there's many other reasons for why communication breakdowns happen. Of course. And in my previous videos, I've covered quite a few examples of why communication is not always effective. But this time in this video, I want to talk about the right choice of a channel of communication. So there are three criteria that I want to mention which are important when you choose the channel. Because remember, some of the reasons for communication breakdowns may be simply the wrong choice of a channel. For example, you write an email to your colleague and that email simply gets lost in a whole, in dozens of emails that the colleague receives. And then a couple of days later, you wonder why you didn't receive a response to it. Or you make a call to somebody and that someone simply doesn't like to talk on the phone and kind of ignores your phone call, but then forgets to, read your message or send you a text message. And again, there's a breakdown in communication. So the gist of my message is you gotta really approach the communication channel choice as a very serious issue. So as I said, three ways or three criteria to apply this process. The criteria number one is, what is your goal? Or what's the situation? So what is it? Do you want to discuss an idea with your colleague? Do you want to just pass a report to somebody? Do you want to sell a product to a client? Do you want to get an approval from your manager? What is your goal? What is the situation? The situation will dictate the choice of a channel. And again, just as an example, if you want to sell something, writing an email may not be the right choice, or at least leaving it just in an email may not be the right choice. You may need to follow up it through some other channels of communication. Or if you want to get something, get a discussion going, and you decide to actually visit somebody in his office, and then it appears that for that discussion there's a need for a third person or fourth person, well, maybe a door-to-door walk is not the best choice. Maybe what you should do is get together all of these people at a meeting. So my point is that it may sound very simple to you, but quite often we default with a choice of channel onto something that we prefer. So if we prefer to write emails, we just like to write emails no matter what the situation is. If we prefer to have phone calls, we just make phone calls without thinking what may be the right choice for that situation. So always match the channel to the situation. The second point is who is the recipient of this information. Now this is a critical piece, and actually in most of the time people fail to understand what's the preference of the recipient. What they often do is they default on using what's their preference. If I like to do a WhatsApp messenger chat, I just write on WhatsApp. But the truth is that my counterpart, my colleague, may not visit WhatsApp on an hourly basis. He may actually check his WhatsApp only once in a day, a couple of times a day. So it's important to know the communication preferences of your recipient and build your communication based on those preferences. So the recipient is very important. And finally, third criteria is urgency. How urgent this information is, how urgently you want to deliver this information or resolve this issue with your counterpart, with the recipient. And of course, if it's an urgent matter, probably again, things like email or meetings that happen 3 or 4 hours later may not be always the right choice. Maybe in that case, say a WhatsApp message or a phone call may be better. Or if it's not urgent, if it can wait, if you can actually give the other side a couple of days or a couple of weeks to think this over, to digest it and then to come up with an answer, well, maybe there is no rush in making a phone call. So choose the channel depending on the urgency. So once again, this is the situation, the goal of your communication. This is the recipient and his or her preferences of channels. And finally, the urgency of the matter. So if you use these 3 criteria to choose the right channel of communication, I guarantee your communication will be more effective and more influential. I hope you find this video useful, and I look forward to seeing you in our next videos.